The planet Zarion 9 was silent except for the sound of burning metal and storm winds. The human engineer Eli Ward stumbled out of the wreckage of his small ship, coughing through the smoke. His face was dirty, his left arm bleeding, but his mind was calm, trained to survive. He looked around. The sky was dark violet, filled with flashing lightning that moved in strange, slow waves. The ground shone with a faint blue light, like glass that remembered fire. Every few seconds, a whisper passed through the air, like the planet itself was alive and watching him. Eli tapped his broken wristcom. "Command, this is Eli Ward of the Argus 7. Emergency crash landing. Coordinates unknown." No answer. Only static. He sighed and began walking toward a strange structure in the distance. Tall, black pillars arranged in a circle, glowing faintly. His boots crunched on the hard crystal dust. He needed shelter before the next lightning wave hit. As he got closer, he noticed something moving near the pillars. A figure, kneeling, bound by energy chains. Eli froze. At first, he thought it was a machine. Then the figure turned its head and he saw a woman, or something close to one. Her skin shimmered faint blue, her hair like silver flowing in the wind. Around her neck glowed a metallic collar, covered in alien symbols. When she looked up, her eyes glowed bright gold and Eli felt a strange pulse inside his chest, like her gaze could reach into his heart. She spoke weakly. You are not one of them." Eli stepped closer, raising his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm human." "Are you human?" she whispered, tasting the word like it was ancient. "Then the legends are true." Eli looked at the collar. The device hummed with power. "Hold still," he said gently. "I can remove this." She tried to shake her head. "No, you must not." But he was already working. His engineer's hands moved fast. He used a small plasma cutter to slice through the energy node. Sparks flew. The collar made a deep humming sound, then clicked open and fell to the ground. For 1 second there was silence. Then the entire circle of pillars flashed bright white. The ground trembled. The wind roared like a living beast. The woman gasped, staring at him with wide eyes. "What have you done?" Eli backed away. I just freed you." She stood up slowly, her golden eyes glowing stronger now. The marks on her arms began to shine. She looked both terrified and awed. "You removed my binding collar. According to the law of Zarion, you are now my husband." Eli blinked. "What?" She stepped closer, voice trembling but clear. "Only a chosen mate may remove the collar of a royal. You have spoken the vow of release through your act. By our law, our spirits are now bound." Eli raised his hands again, confused and alarmed. "No, wait, that can't be right. I was just trying to help." But before he could say more, a siren echoed in the distance. A deep, alien sound that rattled the ground. The woman's expression changed from shock to fear. "They are coming," she whispered. "Who?" "The enforcers. My father's guards. They will kill you for touching me." Eli looked at her glowing eyes, then at the storm above. He knew he had only two choices: run or fight beside her. He grabbed his toolkit and said firmly, "Then we better move." She hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me, human." They ran into the dark, through the crystal dust and lightning. Behind them, the pillars cracked apart as drones rose into the air, black machines with red scanning eyes. The woman lifted her hand and energy waves shot from her fingers, striking one drone down. Eli stared, amazed. "You can do that?" She smirked, weak but proud. "Now that the collar is gone, yes." As they reached the edge of a canyon, she looked back one last time. "You still don't understand what you have done," she said. "By freeing me, you did not just break a law, you broke a kingdom." Before Eli could answer, the ground beneath them split open. They fell into the darkness below, surrounded by flashes of blue fire and echoing sirens. The last thing Eli heard before he blacked out was her voice, soft, almost gentle. "Hold on, husband. Your new life begins now." When Eli woke, he was lying on smooth stone. The air was warm and smelled like rain. His head ached, and for a moment he couldn't remember where he was. Then he saw her, the silver-haired alien woman, sitting near a small blue flame that floated in the air like a living candle. "You're awake," she said quietly. Her golden eyes glowed in the half-light. "We fell into the underground caverns of Zarian." Eli groaned, rubbing his shoulder. "Yeah, I noticed the falling part. Are you okay?" She gave a slow nod. "The bond protected me. And you." He frowned. "Bond?" She turned her gaze toward the flame. "You still don't understand. When you removed my collar, the ancient law of my people was activated. The collar was not just a chain, and it was a royal seal. Only one person can remove it, the one chosen by fate as a mate." Eli sat up straighter. "Hold on. You're saying I'm your husband? Because I helped you." Her expression was calm, almost sad. "Not by choice, by law. On Zarion, such acts form a soul bond. Our lives are now connected. If one of us dies, the other's life fades too." He stared at her in disbelief. "That's insane. We just met." A faint smile curved her lips. "To you, yes. To my people, it's sacred tradition. You broke an ancient rule, and the council will see it as an unforgivable act." Eli stood and paced around. "Great. So I crash on a strange planet, save a stranger, and now I'm married and wanted for a crime." Her eyes softened. "You're not just wanted, human. You are hunted. The enforcers will not stop until you're dead." Eli sighed and looked up at the glowing cave roof. "Then we need a plan. You said your name before. Liara, right?" She nodded gently. "Princess Liara of the House of Aurelian." He gave a small grin despite the situation. "Well, Princess Liara, I'm Eli Ward, engineer, not soldier. But I don't plan to die today." Her golden eyes studied him carefully. "You have courage, Eli Ward." "I didn't expect that from a human," he shrugged. "You'd be surprised what humans can do when their lives are on the line." Liara stood, her long hair glowing faintly in the light. "There's a passage that leads to the surface, but it passes through the canyons of the old ones. Forbidden land." "Forbidden to who?" he asked. "To everyone," she whispered. "Ancient machines sleep there. They wake for intruders." Before Eli could answer, the ground rumbled. Rocks fell from the ceiling, and a deep metallic hum echoed through the cavern. Liara's eyes widened. "They found us." She grabbed Eli's arm, pulling him toward a narrow tunnel. The walls pulsed with blue veins of energy. As they ran, he heard something behind them. Mechanical footsteps, heavy and sharp. "They're close," Eli shouted. Liara turned, raised her hands, and a wave of golden energy exploded from her palms. The tunnel shook as the blast threw dust and light everywhere. "That will slow them," she said. Eli stared, amazed. "You have some serious power." She looked at him seriously. "I only regained it because you freed me. The collar trapped my strength for years. My father feared what I could become." They stopped near an ancient door covered in alien runes. Liara touched the symbols and whispered something in her language. The door opened with a sigh, revealing a hidden room filled with old machines, shining in pale light. Eli's eyes widened. "What is this place?" "The sanctuary," Liara said softly. "Built before my people forgot how to build." She walked toward a control pillar and placed her hand on it. The machines came alive, humming, glowing, spinning slowly like they were remembering their purpose. "Can this help us escape?" Eli asked. Liara shook her head. "It can help us survive. This place can hide us for a while." She turned to him. "Eli Ward, you must understand, your presence here will change everything. The council will call me a traitor for protecting you, but I cannot let them harm you. The bond forbids it." Eli smiled faintly. "You don't need a law to protect me. I trust you." For a moment, her expression softened, a small, genuine smile breaking through her usual calm. "Humans are strange. You trust so easily." He shrugged again. "Guess that's what makes us human." The hum of the machines filled the air. Outside, the storm raged again. Liara looked toward the tunnel and whispered, "The hunt begins." Eli checked his plasma cutter and tightened his gloves. "Then let's give them a chase they'll never forget." Liara stepped beside him, golden light glowing from her hands. "So be it, my husband." The two stood side by side, and the human and the alien princess, ready to face a world that already saw them as criminals and legends. The wind screamed through the narrow caves of Zarian 9 as Eli Ward and Princess Liara stepped into the open night. The sky glowed with 2 red moons, and the land stretched endlessly, sharp cliffs, glowing stones, and rivers of silver mist twisting through the canyons below. Behind them, far in the distance, the metallic roar of the enforcer ships grew louder. Eli tightened the straps on his pack. "So these canyons are forbidden, why?" Liara looked down at the deep valley glowing under the moons. "Because even our strongest warriors never returned from there. The machines below still remember the old wars. They hunt anything that breathes." Eli gave a small grin. "Perfect. Let's go where no one wants to follow." Liara raised an eyebrow. "Humans truly are strange." "You fear nothing," he smiled faintly. "I fear plenty. I just don't like being caught." They began their descent. The rocks were slippery and warm, as if the earth itself was alive. Strange lights moved under the mist, green flashes shifting like eyes. Every sound echoed too long, too deep. As they reached the canyon floor, Eli noticed ancient structures buried in stone, towers half fallen, with glowing circuits running through them like veins. He brushed his fingers along one wall. "This is old tech, older than anything I've seen." Liara's expression turned serious. "The old ones built these cities before my ancestors came from the stars. We think they were the first." Eli knelt beside a cracked metal plate with human-like symbols. "These markings, they look almost Earth-based." Liara stared at him, surprised. "Impossible. Your world is thousands of light years away." "Then explain this," he said, pointing at a carved spiral that matched Earth's ancient patterns. "What if humans have been out here before?" Before she could answer, the ground vibrated. The mist around them twisted into a storm. From the shadows, metallic forms began to rise. Ancient guardians, shaped like wolves made of black steel and fire. Liara stepped back, glowing energy forming in her hands. "The sentinels of the canyons," she said softly. "They protect the secrets of this place." Eli grabbed his plasma cutter. "Guess we're intruders." The first sentinel lunged. Its claws sliced through stone. Eli rolled aside and fired a burst of plasma into its face, melting part of its armor. Liara sent a blast of golden energy into another, her eyes shining bright. The canyon filled with explosions of light, blue, gold, and red fire painting the night. But for every sentinel they destroyed, 2 more emerged. Liara's voice trembled with strain. "There are too many." Eli looked around desperately, then spotted an old tunnel entrance glowing faintly. "There, that opening." They ran together, dodging fire and claws. The ground cracked under their feet. Liara stumbled, but Eli caught her hand and pulled her up. The moment they entered the tunnel, the walls sealed behind them like closing jaws, trapping the sentinels outside. Silence returned, broken only by their breathing. Liara leaned against the wall, her light fading. "You saved me again, human," Eli smirked. "That's what husbands are for, right?" She looked at him with surprise. Then a small smile escaped her lips. "You make light of everything, even death. Helps me stay sane," he said softly. The tunnel was dark except for strange blue symbols glowing faintly along the walls. As they walked deeper, they found themselves inside a chamber filled with ancient holograms. Figures of tall beings, half human and half light. One hologram activated, its voice echoing through the chamber. "To the bonded ones who awaken the seal, the old promise shall return." Eli frowned. "What does that mean?" Liara's eyes widened. "It speaks of the ancient prophecy. The bonded ones, a pair from different worlds who would open the path to renewal." He looked around the glowing chamber. "You think it's talking about us?" Her voice softened. "Perhaps. Destiny does not care about species." Before they could speak more, a deep hum filled the air. A map of stars appeared. A floating galaxy with a bright point marked red. Liara stared. "That's the capital world. They're tracking us." Eli clenched his fists. "Then we move fast." before they reach us. But as they turned to leave, the hologram changed, showing a massive structure deep in the canyon, shaped like a giant heart of metal and crystal. Liara touched it. "The core of Zarian," she whispered. "It's real. My people said it was legend, a power that can rebuild worlds or destroy them." Eli looked at her seriously. "Then maybe that's what they're really after, not us, but the power inside this place." She nodded slowly. "And now, because of the bond, the core will answer only to us." Eli took a deep breath. "Then we better make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands." The air trembled again. Faint sounds of approaching engines echoed through the canyon. The enforcers had found them. Liara's eyes glowed fiercely. "We'll have to fight again." Eli smiled grimly. "Then let's make it count." They stood together. In the blue light of the ancient chamber, the human and the alien princess and unaware that their names would soon become legend across galaxies. The acid rain began to fall. It came down in silver streaks that hissed when they touched stone. Each drop burned holes into the ground, filling the air with smoke. The canyons of Zarian had turned into a storm of death. Eli Ward pulled his torn jacket tighter and looked at Princess Liara, who struggled to stand. Her energy glow was weak now, dim like a dying flame. "We need shelter," Eli shouted through the wind. Liara pointed ahead, her voice barely audible. "There's an old mining tunnel, half a mile east." They started moving, but the rain grew heavier. Eli felt it burning through his sleeves. Pain shot up his arms, but he didn't stop. The ground cracked beneath them, releasing steam and light. Liara stumbled. Her legs gave way, and she fell to her knees. The acid hissed against her skin. She gasped in pain. Without thinking, Eli threw off his jacket and covered her with it, pressing her against his chest. "Don't move. I've got you." "You'll burn!" she cried. "Humans are tougher than we look," he said, forcing a smile through the pain. He lifted her in his arms and began running through the storm. The acid rain burned his face, his hands, his back, but he kept moving. Each step felt heavier, the ground slippery and hot, but he didn't let go. Liara's vision blurred. She could feel his heartbeat, strong and steady. Even while dying, he refused to stop. She had seen warriors, assassins, and kings, but none like this human. They reached the dark opening of the mining tunnel just as Eli's knees began to shake. He stumbled inside, collapsing against the cold wall, still holding her tight. The tunnel was silent except for their breathing. The air smelled of dust and metal. Eli finally let out a deep breath. "We made it." Liara pulled away, trembling. The acid had burned through parts of his skin. His back was red and blistered, but he didn't complain. He just smiled faintly, brushing ash off his face. "You risked your life," she whispered. "For me." He looked at her with tired eyes. "That's what humans do. We protect the ones beside us." She reached out slowly, her glowing fingers brushing over his burns. Golden light spread from her hand, healing the wounds. Eli gasped as the pain faded. "What? What are you doing?" "My bond allows me to share my life energy," she said softly. "But it weakens me." He caught her hand. "Then stop. You've done enough." She looked at him, tears glimmering like stars in her eyes. "No, human. You saved me when you had nothing. Let me save you when I still can." As her energy faded, she leaned forward, resting her head against his shoulder. The silence between them grew warm, fragile, but real. Eli spoke quietly. "Back on Earth, people think aliens are monsters. But you're nothing like what they imagine." Liara gave a faint smile. "And on my world, humans were stories told to scare children. They said you were violent, foolish, too emotional." He chuckled. "That part might be true." For the first time, she laughed, a soft melodic sound that echoed through the dark tunnel. "Maybe that is what makes you powerful." Outside, the storm began to calm. Only soft drops fell now, harmless and faintly glowing. Eli stood, stretching his arm. "Once it's clear, we move. Those enforcers will track us soon." Liara nodded, but her eyes were full of something different, something he couldn't name. "Eli Ward," she said quietly. "When I first saw you, I thought you were reckless. But now I see you're something rarer. Brave," he grinned. "I'll take that as a compliment, princess." She shook her head. "No, you've done what no one else would do for me. My own guards left me in chains. You carried me through death," he shrugged. "Guess I didn't get the memo about not touching royalty." Liara smiled, her gaze softening. If we survive this, you may be the first human ever written in our royal archives. Let's make sure we do survive then. He checked his toolkit, adjusting the plasma cutter's settings. Liara looked toward the exit, the glowing horizon waiting for them. There's a rebel outpost beyond the canyon, she said. If we reach it, we can find allies. People who still believe in freedom. Then that's where we're going, Eli said firmly. Before leaving, Liara turned toward him once more.
Eli, you don't realize what you've done.
You didn't just save me. You changed what I believe about my people, about all life. He gave her a small smile. Then let's keep changing things, one storm at a time. They stepped out together into the fading light, their shadows stretching across the steaming rocks. Above them, the red moon shone again. And somewhere beyond the mountains, the enforcers moved closer, hunting the bonded pair who had already begun to rewrite the fate of two worlds. The journey through the canyon ended at dawn. The air was cold, the sky pale blue, and the red moons faded into mist. Eli Ward and Princess Liara were exhausted, their steps slow, their clothes torn, but their eyes still sharp. They had been walking for hours toward the rebel outpost Liara mentioned. But as they reached a wide valley, everything felt wrong. The silence was too perfect, no wind, no movement. Eli stopped, his instincts screaming. Liara, he said quietly, something's not right. She looked around. The rocks shimmered faintly, and then in a sudden flash, invisible walls of blue energy appeared around them. A trap. From the cliffs above, alien ships appeared, sleek black with glowing red marks. Dozens of enforcers descended, weapons raised. Liara gasped. They found us. Eli stepped in front of her, raising his plasma cutter even though it was nearly drained. Stay behind me. The lead enforcer landed in front of them. Tall, armored in silver plates, his face hidden behind a mask. His voice echoed like thunder. Princess Liara of Aurelian, you are under arrest for treason, and the human who defiled royal law will be executed. Liara's eyes burned with anger. He did not defile anything. He saved my life. The enforcer tilted his head. You speak like one of them now. Pitiful. Before Eli could react, two soldiers fired stun beams. A flash of light struck him in the chest. Pain exploded through his body, then darkness. When Eli opened his eyes again, he was inside a glowing cage made of energy bars. The air smelled of ozone and metal. Outside the cage stood Liara, dressed in white royal armor, her wrists bound by golden rings that shimmered with power. They were inside the royal hall of Zarian, a grand circular room made of crystal and light. Alien nobles stood on high platforms, their eyes cold and watchful. At the center sat King Serath, Liara's father, tall, ancient-looking, his face carved in stone. Princess Liara, he said slowly, his voice like iron. You were captured with a human, a creature of chaos. Explain yourself. Liara stood tall despite her chains. Father Eli Ward is no creature. He saved me from the enforcers who abandoned me. Without him I would be dead. The king's golden eyes narrowed. He touched the royal collar. He broke our sacred law. By our customs, he must die. Eli's hands clenched around the energy bars. I didn't know about your law. I just saw someone in chains and helped. That's what humans do. A low murmur spread among the council. The king raised his hand, silencing them. Ignorance does not excuse blasphemy. Liara stepped forward. Then punish me, not him. The bond is mutual. If you kill him, my life will fade too. Gasps filled the hall. The king stood abruptly. You speak falsehoods. She lifted her wrist, showing the faint golden mark that pulsed beneath her skin, the sign of the bond. You cannot deny what the core itself recognizes. The law you created binds me to him. The king's fury filled the room. You dare twist my own law against me? Eli could barely follow their words. His body still hurt, but his mind was clear. He saw how the council looked at Liara, not with love, but with fear. She's your daughter, he said firmly. And you'd kill her just to keep your pride? The hall went silent. No one had ever spoken to the king that way, especially not a human. The king's eyes turned cold. Guards, take him away, Liara shouted. No! She stretched out her hand, and for a moment the air trembled. Her golden energy exploded, breaking her restraints. The guards were thrown back, and her eyes glowed like burning suns. Touch him again, she warned, and I will end this council myself. The nobles screamed and fled. The king stepped back, his expression changing. Not fear, but realization. The bond awakened your ancient power. Liara helped Eli out of the cage. Can you walk? He nodded weakly. Yeah. I've been in worse first dates. Even in chaos, she smiled for a second. You're impossible. Together they ran through the hall. Alarms blared. Soldiers filled the corridors, but Liara's energy shield blocked their weapons. Eli used his plasma cutter to break open a gate leading to the courtyard. Outside, ships were burning. Rebels, the freedom fighters loyal to Liara's old teacher, had arrived to help them escape. A rebel shouted, "Princess!" Quickly! Liara turned one last time toward the palace. She saw her father watching from the balcony, silent and pale. Their eyes met, hers full of sorrow, his full of pride that had finally cracked. Then she turned away and leaped aboard the ship with Eli. As the engines roared and the city shrank below, Eli looked at her. You just made us both the galaxy's most wanted. Liara nodded. Maybe. But also the most dangerous, because now the people know the truth. Eli leaned back against the wall, exhausted but smiling. Guess we're in this together. She met his gaze. Not guess, human. Fate decided it. The ship vanished into the clouds, leaving the royal world of Zarian behind, and ahead of them waited war, freedom, and the destiny neither of them had chosen, but both were willing to fight for. The rebel ship sliced through the clouds, leaving the royal city far behind. Inside, the cabin was dim and quiet except for the low hum of engines. Eli Ward sat against the wall, watching the stars drift past the windows. Across from him, Princess Liara sat with her hands clasped together, her eyes glowing faintly gold. She hadn't spoken since they escaped. Her silence made the air heavy. Eli finally broke it. You okay? Liara looked up. My father. He won't stop, now that I've defied him. He will use the full force of the Empire to hunt us. Eli leaned forward. Then we'll stay ahead of him. The rebels, your friends, they'll help, right? She shook her head. They help out of hope, not power. The king has armies. They have courage. That is not enough. He studied her face, tired yet unbroken. You're stronger than you think. Liara sighed softly. You don't understand, human, my power. It's not something I can control. The bond between us has changed it. I feel it growing like a storm inside my blood. Eli smiled faintly. Then maybe that storm's what we need. Before she could answer, the ship's alarm started blaring. The pilot shouted, "Enemy crafts incoming!" 6 royal interceptors closing fast. Liara stood instantly. He found us already. The rebels scrambled, manning the turrets. The sky outside filled with laser fire. The ship shook violently as a beam hit its wing. Eli grabbed a handrail to stay upright. How bad is it? The pilot yelled back, "Engines failing. We can't outfly them." Liara closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Then I'll stop them. Eli turned to her in shock. How? You don't have weapons strong enough. She stepped toward the front window. Her golden aura began to expand, swirling around her like living fire. No weapons, she said quietly. Just me. Her body lifted slightly from the ground, hair flowing upward as if in zero gravity. The glow around her brightened until it filled the cabin with warm light. Eli shielded his eyes. Liara! Outside, the enemy ships fired again, and her golden light exploded outward, a wave of pure energy that shattered the clouds. The royal interceptors were caught in it, their systems overloading, their engines burning out one by one. The explosion lit the sky like a second sun. The rebel crew stared in awe. When the light faded, Liara collapsed. Eli rushed to her side, catching her before she hit the floor. Hey, stay with me. Her breathing was shallow, her voice weak. I didn't mean to release that much. The bond, it amplifies me. Eli tightened his grip on her hand. You saved all of us. She smiled faintly. No, human, we did. He looked at her for a long moment, realizing something new. She wasn't just a princess or a warrior. She was the heart of something bigger, maybe even the key to saving this entire world. Hours later, the ship landed on a hidden moon base, an old mining colony turned rebel hideout. The rebels carried Liara to a medical room. Machines surrounded her, scanning the strange energy inside her body. Eli stood nearby, arms crossed, worry clear in his eyes. The rebel leader, a tall woman with metallic implants named Captain Rin, approached him. Your bond with her, she said, it's unlike anything we've seen. Her power is tied to your heartbeat. Eli frowned. Meaning? If you die, she dies. If she loses control, you burn out. You're connected, body and soul. He stared at the glowing glass pod where Liara rested. Then I'm not leaving her side. Captain Rin nodded. You might not have a choice. The Empire is coming. Their fleet just jumped near the system. Eli's eyes hardened. Then we fight. Hours later, the rebel base trembled as the first royal ships arrived. The sky above the moon burned red. Eli ran to the command deck. We can't win in open space, he said. They'll crush us, Rin shouted over the alarms. Then we hold them long enough for Liara to recover. As if hearing her name, the lights dimmed. Energy surged through the base's walls. Every screen flickered, showing a golden pulse spreading through the power lines. Liara appeared at the entrance, standing tall and radiant, her golden aura stronger than ever. The rebels turned and stared. Eli stepped forward, stunned. Liara, you're... She interrupted softly. Awake and ready, her voice echoed through the base. My father rules through fear. Today he will see the strength of freedom. She raised her hand and the golden energy from her body connected with the power grid. The base's defense cannons glowed brighter than ever before. When the next wave of royal ships descended, the cannons fired beams of golden light that tore through the enemy lines. The battle became chaos, light and fire dancing across the stars. Eli joined the defense, coordinating the rebels, shouting orders. Liara stood at the center of it all, her power flowing like a storm, pure, unstoppable, beautiful. By night's end, the royal fleet was broken. The king's flagship retreated into the dark, leaving the rebels victorious for the first time in generations. As silence returned, Liara walked toward Eli, her steps slow, her energy dim but calm. It's over. For now, Eli smiled faintly. You just did what no army ever could. She looked at him, her eyes soft. Not alone. The power woke because of you. The bond gave me strength. He took her hand. Then we keep using it. Together. For the first time since her capture, Liara allowed herself to hope. The war wasn't finished, but something greater had begun. A rebellion that burned brighter than any star. The war had ended with the rising of two suns over Zarian 9. The golden sky shimmered, reflecting across the broken towers of the royal capital. Smoke drifted from the ruins of old warships that now lay silent in the valleys. For the first time in centuries, the planet was quiet. Eli Ward stood on the high balcony of the royal palace, the same place where he had once been sentenced to die. Now it was his home. Below him, crowds of alien citizens filled the square, cheering and waving banners marked with two symbols intertwined, the human crest and the royal sigil of Aurelian. Behind him, the doors opened softly. Princess Liara stepped out, no longer wearing armor but a white robe glowing faintly with light. Her golden eyes caught the morning sun. They're waiting for you, she said gently. Eli turned to her with a half smile. I'm still not used to being the man everyone cheers for. She walked closer, her voice warm. You are the first human ever to stand here. The first to bring peace between species that only knew fear. He shook his head. You're the reason they're free, Liara. You broke the chains. I just followed your lead. Her lips curved into a soft smile. No, human. You taught me what freedom means. The heavy sound of drums echoed below. The coronation ceremony was about to begin. Liara took his hand, her touch firm but calm. Ready? Eli looked into her glowing eyes and whispered, Not really, but let's make history anyway. They stepped forward together. The great doors opened, revealing a path lined with glowing crystals and banners of gold. Rebels, nobles, soldiers, and common people all stood side by side, no longer enemies but equals. As they walked, the crowd chanted their names. Liara the Liberator, Eli the Human King. Eli paused for a moment, feeling the weight of those words. Human King, he had never wanted power. He only wanted to help someone in need. But now, that one act had changed a planet's fate. At the end of the hall stood the ancient throne, rebuilt from fragments of old metal and crystal. Liara turned toward the people and spoke, her voice strong and clear. People of Zarian, she began, the age of rulers and slaves is over. The age of division is ended. Today we begin as one world, bound not by law or fear but by choice. The crowd erupted in cheers. Then she looked at Eli, her expression softening. By our ancient bond, the one who freed me is one with me. Let the law that once enslaved us now unite us. She took the silver crown, once her father's, and instead of placing it on her own head, she placed it in Eli's hands. Eli stared at it, unsure. I don't belong on a throne, Liara, she smiled. That's why you deserve it. He hesitated, then turned to the crowd and lifted the crown high. This is not my rule, he said loudly. This is our promise, that no one, human or alien, will ever wear chains again. The cheers rose like thunder. The sound carried across the city, through the ruined towers and into the open skies. Liara stepped beside him, her hand slipping into his. Together they sat upon the shared throne, not king and queen by birth, but by bond and courage. Later, as the celebration faded and night returned, Eli and Liara walked through the quiet gardens behind the palace. The air was warm, and the stars reflected in the crystal ponds. It feels unreal, Eli said softly. Back on Earth I was just a mechanic. Now I'm part of a legend. Liara smiled, watching the stars. Legends are born from the simplest hearts, Eli Ward. He chuckled. You sound like one of my old teachers. She turned to him, her golden eyes glowing gently. Do you regret it? Freeing me that day? He looked at her for a long moment. Not for a second. She stepped closer, her voice quiet. You broke my collar, but also my loneliness. I spent my whole life being controlled, known by rules, by blood, by fear. Then you came and everything changed. He smiled softly. Guess fate knew what it was doing. Liara tilted her head. Fate or love? Eli's heart skipped. He reached out and brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. Maybe both. They stood there in silence as the twin moons rose, one red, one gold, shining over a world reborn. The night wind carried the sounds of distant laughter and peace. For the first time in centuries, no chains clinked in the dark, no screams echoed through the towers. Only hope. Liara leaned her head gently on Eli's shoulder. You didn't just save me, human. You freed my world. Eli looked at the stars, his hand closing around hers. And maybe now it's time for us to build a new one.